Welcome everybody to another edition of the Journal of Lifestyle Medicine podcast, the Reboot series. My name is Sven Hosford, and in this reboot of my podcast, which I've been doing for 4, 5, 6 years now, I think, we took a bit of a time off, had some health challenges, tried a different career path, and now I'm back, and I'm focusing on just the products and the services that I use personally and the people that I turn to help with my overall health, which, if you've been following this podcast, you know is a pretty big issue. So I'm real excited today. We're going to be talking with Kearan Prem. Now, this is somebody I've worked with personally. I can personally verify that everything that's on his website is true, to the best of my knowledge. And that is that he uses a different approach, abstract methods, rare techniques, and a bloodline access to rare ancient knowledge. Now, he calls them psychic sessions, but I have to tell you, it's a lot more than just that. I met him when he was here in Pittsburgh a few months ago, and some friends of mine, he was staying with one friend of mine, and she and some other friends just said about the amazing work that he did. So I went and had a session with him, and I was very impressed that we dealt with emotional issues, relationships, but also the physical issues. And he gave me some really good advice. And the first thing I noticed was he gets to the core of the problem. We're not going to deal, especially not in the first session or more, you're not going to deal with the surface issues. You're going to get down deep into discovering what is the core reason for any kind of a dysfunction. You may not even have a conscious awareness of that, which I thought I'd worked through one of these issues, and lo and behold, I had not, but did then, and it's been a really big change in my life. The second thing that he does is he doesn't just fix or inform you, he empowers you. He gives you homework, rituals, techniques, knowledge that you can keep using to keep these problems from reoccurring. And the third thing is he's rooted in a metaphysical tradition, which I found very appealing. He uses energy, elements, what I would call etheric power, and also reading your Akashic records, which is a whole nother podcast if we ever get into that. And you can discover more about him and sign up for his Advanced Psychic Development course on his website, and that website is psychicrecords.org. He's also very active on Facebook and has many interesting videos on his YouTube channel. Welcome, Kearan. How are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing just great. And that's good for both of us. Now we're right in the midst of the pandemic.
Yes.
You said earlier today that your business is really picking up. People are calling you quite a bit right now, I guess.
Yes.
Well, the first thing I know everybody will want to know is, tell us about yourself, how and where you learned these abilities and this knowledge that you have.
All right. So my name is Kearan. I grew up in South Africa, and from a very young age, I was very interested in mantras, in the esoteric form of different practices, different cultures, different religions. And I remember once when I was very, very young, I had just come back from a temple service. And while I was lying in bed, I was just thinking about that service. And I remember I was in grade 1 and I was very young, but I saw little pops of light coming into the room. And I felt an energy rising up my back. And I didn't realize what that was at the time. Later on, I realized it was Kundalini energy. I saw pops of light coming into my head. And I'm using the word pop because it literally was like popping open. And from that time, I started to get very clear visions of different things as people were speaking about it. And I didn't realize or think too much about that event. I thought it was normal because different things started to come to me and I started to get different visions of events that were being described or events of the future. Later on, as my communication skills grew, I realized that other people didn't have that ability.
That's very common, I think, with a lot of...
I was very, very lucky to come across the very best of teachers. And from some of the teachers, I learned healing abilities. From some of them, I learned different forms of Eastern metaphysical techniques for healing, for developing my power, for developing others' power, rituals that I can use to alleviate different energetic problems that people experience to improve their health. And health here means a lot more than just physical health. It's emotional well-being, it's financial well-being, because from emotional stifling and resentment comes various psychological issues, which then manifest into physical issues. So I really deal with the root cause of the event, like you mentioned, where I will tune into your past without anybody having to say anything or share anything. I tune into the exact event that caused the mental imbalance, which causes the physical imbalance, and I root out that emotional energy from your energy system with my energy healing techniques. So it doesn't require so much of an effort from your part. And then later on, it's like pulling out a tree by the root. Once that emotional energy is removed, it's just the physical energy that has to be cleaned up, and it's a very easy job. It requires a bit of homework, and I give you the tools to empower yourself. And a few days later, you find that most people have found that the physical ailment has started to dissipate, or they suddenly start getting breakthroughs. And a lot of people have come forward. I used to collect reviews, and then it got too much, and then it was like, okay, there's enough reviews, about 20 or 30 reviews here, 50 reviews there, whatever. A lot of people follow me. A lot of people started referring me. That's how I grew, and that's how I came across you. And it's just awesome helping people. I just love that.
Well, we love it too. Well, tell me what this term means, because I'm fascinated about this. You told me a little bit about it. You said you have bloodline access to rare ancient knowledge. This is a family tradition in your family, yes?
Yes. So what was being referred to there is my web developer and I had an interview so that she could develop a website for me, and she was also a client. So she was fascinated as to how I was able to access this. And then we got into a conversation, and I started discussing it. And I discussed a certain event in which my paternal grandfather had helped somebody in a similar mystical manner. And at that time, I realized, hey, wait a second. Different people in my family throughout the generations have had the same ability.
Hmm.
And then as I started researching more about it, I discovered that yes, indeed, it is something that runs in both sides of the family. And it's just something that we've used and we've never thought too much about.
Well, that's interesting. So it's almost like a musical talent or
Mm-hmm.
any other kind of an ability that runs
Mm.
in the family.
Yeah, but fully discovered and very much in use as well.
So, what is it about your sessions that really makes them different from what people would think of as a psychic reading?
When many people go to a psychic, they expect an answer regarding something only in the energy field or something in the distant future. Whereas with me, I use the session to heal your life. I look at the past, things that are blocking you, and what you can do to release it. If there's something that you can't do, or if it's too painful, I do the energetic work in order to release it in the same session. If there's something in your present and different parts all calling out to you in your present and you're not sure which direction to take, I direct you as to which path would be ideal for you. And in your future, if I see something which is not ideal for you, then what I do is I tell you the different paths that are available, what the results are, and I advise you on the best path to take. And in that way, I feel I can truly heal your life. If there's any physical ailments, long before they start manifesting, I tell you where and when they will manifest, which part of the body, and what you can do to prevent it. If there's something that has already manifested or is manifesting currently in your aura system or in your body, or if it has manifested already, I pick it up with my ability and I tell you how you can assist your current medical routine or regimen in order to release that event. And I found that most people, even those who are not really psychic or who come from a very scientific background have felt instantly the effect of the healing
Hmm.
and the mantra work. And this is all done either by phone or by at a distance or through video call. And people have found that it's exactly the same. A lot of people have the misconception that it has to be done in person for it to be effective. And I disagree with that.
Yeah, I have that on the list of things to talk about, because I've had a session with you in person, and I've had one on Facebook talk or chat or whatever they call that. And I found them both to be extremely powerful. Um, One of the important things I think you do that I've never had anybody else help me with is you actually give us rituals
Hmm.
to do. Talk a little bit about the power of ritual and exactly what's happening in that when the person takes over and starts to take control of their health this way.
Well, I believe that when people come to me, they come to me for a reason. I want to heal your life, and one of those ways to heal you is by giving you the tools by which you can continue on life's journey in a healthy, happy manner to actually be alive, not just live from day to day. And one of the best ways to do that is by empowering the person with mantras, with whatever it is that they need, so that they can assist their own growth every single time. And they can gain a trust in themselves as well. It very much opens up people's abilities within them.
This process, how does it help speed up the healing process when we have a session with you? How does that speed up healing?
All right, so the rituals are not complicated. Usually it's just one or two ingredients, and I vibrate those ingredients or I send energy to those ingredients. Once you start using it, the energy starts to come into it from the mantras that I say in advance, because energy is not affected by time or place. And again, this goes back to whether a ritual can be done in person or at a distance. I just want to inform people that in the same way, if we have to have a ritual in person, I'm calling the energy down into me. How does it travel from me to you? There has to be some medium by which it travels. And the medium is not touch, because if it was only touch, then it would be like electricity that would light up a light bulb. Why would we need to produce electricity then if energy was only transferred by touch? It was never transferred by touch. I use a Himalayan metaphysical technique, and if you understand the geography, the Himalayas were always separated from the low-lying areas where the city dwellers lived. So the people that lived in the mountains, and I was initiated into quite a few of those traditions. I was initiated into three schools, and I learned three different forms of healing, metaphysics, and prediction healing, and so on. And in the past, either the person sent a message with a carrier, or it was telepathically transmitted, or message spread, or there was a certain royal messenger that went, and because mainly the richer people had access to such messengers, and they would go to the people who lived and meditated and practiced in the Himalayas, and they would get the message, and those people that lived in the Himalayas that practiced these traditions would then make use of the mantras and the rituals, and it would be sent, the energy would be sent at a distance. And that's how many Indian practices gained fame in the West for the metaphysics. They're famous for a reason. And in the 20th century and 21st century, the practices started spreading out of India and into the rest of the world. So what rituals do is, as soon as you take hold of that material, the mantra, which is then suspended in the air, enters into that material. And as you use it in the way that I mentioned, people find that they have an energetic release. Some people start crying. Some people start having a healthy detox. Some people find that things which have affected them for many, many years starts to dissipate.
This is all really fascinating to me. And I know you're psychic because I have right here, is energy bound by time and space? That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. So I'm really intrigued by that, like time and space. So once one becomes an adept in these kinds of traditions, you can actually send healing to yourself in the past, or someone in the past, or someone in the future.
Yes, because in the same way that if you look at a photograph of when you were a child, you look very different from the way you are now. But you are not a different person. You are still the same person, just the body has changed. But we are still carrying imprints of that. We still have memories of that, which means that even if it's not in the conscious mind space, we still have that energy with us. So what the healing does is that it heals the person in the past, it heals them in their present, and we can send healing to the future as well. So resentment, things that have been pushed down into the subconscious or the unconscious, um, different illnesses from the past that keep manifesting in the present. All of these can be slowed down and sometimes even removed completely in the same session. And I've had many experiences with that. Sven, would you like to share some of your experience that led you to this interview with me?
Well, the what was interesting to me was that the thing that you keyed in on as the most important core issue for me was something I thought I had worked out, and it was something that had happened in my past with family. And I thought I had completely worked through all of this, but you actually found something in the past that I didn't have any conscious memory of, that may have been
Mm.
the key thing that was causing the problems. And it started to develop thought habits that I kept with me my entire life. And even after the issue was resolved, I still had those same thought habits. But after working with you, I found a lot of those have cleared away, or most of everything I've seen is cleared away. So I really am intrigued by the whole concept of trying to describe in a Western way, what exactly do we mean by energy? And so I want to ask you, like, you perceive the world in a much different way than most people do. I mean, you see energy, feel energy. How is it? How do you connect with it?
It's just all around us. I mean, many people sometimes feel that they have to understand it. Well, understanding is good, but we all use electricity. Nobody even knows what electricity is. We know how it's generated, but no one knows what it is. And we all make use of it. So energy exists, it's all around us. And just experience it. We live in an energy field, and I can share the experience with people. I can transmit energy to anybody, even at a great distance, and they feel all sorts of things, from their energy lifting up, their vibration increasing, feelings of joy, and release of their emotional problems, and the physical problems start to die off usually as a result of that.
It feels to me like if we release those negative energies, that residue of past circumstances, that our natural state, our natural way of being is much more elevated, much more clarified, much
Yes.
more happy than most of us have felt in our lives. Is that true?
Very much so, because whenever we experience something which overwhelms us or puts us into a crisis state, our state of homeostasis becomes disrupted, which means that our natural biological functioning and our Maslow's triangle becomes disrupted. And sometimes the Maslow's triangle can't even form properly because of the different uh, critical issues that we have to experience and sometimes can't resolve throughout our life, even at a younger age. And with healing, what we can actually do is we can go back and fix up those little pieces. And once that happens, the body's own energy system starts kicking in. And so far, I haven't had a case where healing has not been experienced to some degree by the client.
Hmm.
And usually it's a significant enough degree for the client to say, I'm fine.
Now, We've been talking a lot about past traumas and things, but we're certainly all right now in the middle of something that a lot of people are experiencing as a trauma. If you've lost your job, or you get sick, or you've lost a loved one to this disease, um, how can we protect our health with all of this going on? What are, from an energy or a psychic perspective, what can we do to keep ourselves safe in the present moment?
In the present moment, there is a crisis that is happening in the world. However, even if there was not a crisis happening in the world, and an event happened in your own home or in your own personal life that had the same effect as the current coronavirus pandemic that has spread, we would have to face the same issues. Yes, now it's on a more global or widespread um, scale, but if you had to be left temporarily paralyzed with the amount of emotional trauma that would be caused, even if all those opportunities existed in the world, you wouldn't have been able to partake of them and make something of your life. So whether it's a small event in your home or whether it's a larger event that is happening all around you, crisis presents a time where you have to re-evaluate what you can do for yourself. Whether you choose to make hay while the sun shines and use this opportunity in crisis to seek the help that you need, to reevaluate what is important, and to be able to use the tools that I give you, even in my Facebook, in my YouTube, to access what is around you, go into a state of homeostasis again, and look at what message is the universe trying to send to you. You know, an example that can be given is that of mm, seeds that are put into the soil, right? Some seeds need a little bit of ground cover or a little bit of soil on the top in order for it to sprout. And sometimes the universe throws sand on us. It blocks us. It can be on a widespread scale. It can be on a personal level. But all of these things put pressure on us. And it's that darkness that allows the seed to germinate and grow. I mean, the coronavirus is a pandemic. It is serious. It is providing challenges for us, but it's also how we use this time to reevaluate what we can make of ourselves. Many times people assume that if it's a widespread event, it's it provides a greater challenge to their sense of self. I want to say that yes, it does provide a greater challenge to the world. However, how you deal with it is very similar to how you would deal with a problem that happened in your personal life as well. There are widespread cases of divorce. Divorce has been increasing. If you look at the scale, there's no flattening of the scale. It's going higher and higher and higher. Divorce is as debilitating for a person emotionally as it would be for losing a job as a result of the coronavirus.
Right.
Divorce, changing a home or moving out of your current location, and dealing with pandemics. If you look at this on the scale, it's all about the same. And I can say this with confidence because my background is in psychology. So if we put ratings on different levels of emotional stress, the only thing that would go above that is experiencing the death of a significant other or a parent.
Hmm. So it's very stressful and it's very challenging for a lot of people, but it's also a prime opportunity on the individual level and for us as a society to reevaluate what is important in our life.
To
And
reevaluate what is important in our life, and also to reach out and send out that positive energy to everybody else. And this goes well beyond just thinking. I mean, of course, thoughts have power, but if you really look at energy healing, and we can do something right now where we can call on energy, and we can send people into that energy field to be healed. Whatever issue there is, we can use that space. However, I feel that because society is made up of individuals, yes, we are connected, but because society is made up of individuals, if each person takes responsibility to heal themselves and their soul connections, the healing is more powerful because those connections between the self and others already exist. And if everybody does this, it will help a lot faster.
It's one of the axioms I've learned from a lot of the spiritual training that I've been through is that when you raise your own vibration up, you are actually help saving the world by raising up the vibration of the entire planet. Is that
Yes.
fairly true and accurate?
That is extremely true. I mean, if you look at the atom and if you look at our solar system, how similar is it in shape and in terms of how things spin around?
Right.
Which is why it's not selfish to say first heal yourself and then heal the family unit. No one can pour from an empty cup. And if you have the space that I am healing myself and I'm healing the universe by healing myself, you are carrying the energy vibration of that with you because we represent a microcosm of the macrocosm being the universe and our self being the smaller version of the universe or carrying that energy inside us.
You talk on the website and when in our sessions, you talk a lot about the intention that you bring to the healing session. Talk some about intentions and having clear intentions and just how essential they are to the whole process.
All right. So, in terms of intention, your intention should be that I want to become the best me. I want to heal myself. I want to heal my family unit. I want to heal my community. I want to heal the world, whatever it is. But be honest with yourself. If your intention is to heal your finances, be open to the feedback that you get. And most of the time, I've been blessed that people have been blown away, and 99% of the time, they took what I said, they used the information that I gave them, and they made something successful of themselves. Because sometimes the issue that I pick up on is the emotional cause or the relation between the issue that you are experiencing and where it actually stems from. And I don't mean just a cognition. I'm not going to say, oh, you manifested this. Yeah, we all manifesting. You also manifested me. So the manifestation is not a problem if I'm uh, in your life. But what was the exact emotional cause behind it? What event happened with which person that brought in a cognition or triggered something in you that started to play in your subconscious mind, play in your emotional space, vibrate out of you, and then bring a situation to your life that has debilitated you in some way. I go back and I remove that energetic connection from you.
Hmm.
That's pulling out the roots. Emotional healing occurs, healing on the financial level then occurs as well. Going forward, if you are stuck in a business that is not working for you, if your intention is truly to heal financially, then I will give you the techniques that you need so that you can go forward in your life, so that you can heal yourself, heal your business. And a lot of people don't really understand what it is, but that's okay as well. I mean, they don't really understand why I would choose that event and tell them to work on that. I do explain it, and then they don't, sometimes they surprise when I say, leave this and consider going towards that. Of course, there's no force in it. You can leave your current job and go towards one that's more successful when I advise you. But I have not experienced a single time where I advise somebody of something like this in terms of a business decision and it hasn't worked. My background is not just in psychology, I'm also certified as a Harvard management mentor. And I was working with many businessmen in Hong Kong and China over the last few years. And then it moved to New York. And a lot of business people contacted me with questions regarding investments, regarding business, regarding sales, regarding problems in their organization. And all of them have taken my advice and they have made something of it. And this is also because they had referrals from other people they knew and other business associates. And that's how my name spread around the business community. But if you have to look at healing yourself financially, if your intention is to heal yourself financially, be open to the advice.
And I'm glad you bring that in too, because the financial health is not something that's separate from our overall health, and it's just as vital as our emotional health, as our mental health, our energetic health. When you counsel somebody on these subjects, do you get a feeling from the energy of all the different possible paths, or do you have some precognition of the future that comes into it, or how do you perceive it?
I believe everybody has the ability to be aware of something that is happening inside of them. Some people have the ability more acute than others to be aware of what is happening inside of other people. All I know is that I get a very clear vision of what is happening, exact events, and I can, if the person is truly open, then I get a whole lot more information that comes through. And I know that I can collaborate with the person and help them forward. Yes, I do get events from the future, from the past, from the present.
But it's interesting that by cleaning up an emotional blockage can lead to financial prosperity.
Yes, very much so. Because we all are rooted inside ourselves. Whatever we're experiencing in that emotional space inside us. And a lot of people who don't really say that they don't really understand energy, one of the first questions I ask them is, if you are experiencing some sort of sensation, yes, there's some nerves that are firing some hormones in your brain that is making you experience something. But where is the mind actually held? Where is your feeling actually held? What is making making you react in that way? It's not always something physical. You experience and you use energy all the time, but you're not aware of it.
Mm. Well, that's like the people that, you might come across a person or a situation and you get a gut feeling. You might get a really warm and fuzzy, good feeling in your gut, or you may get a twisted, angry, snarly raccoon is living in your gut. That's really a good entry point for a lot of people that have never kind of focused on that, right?
Yes, it starts off with loving yourself. Loving yourself and just being kind to yourself. And then later on, you will see that as you go into a state where you are calm inside, you can feel something happening around you. And I think that's a gift that I can give to everybody right now. That if you want to know what is truly happening in your life, you have to be still. Some research has found that when it comes to animals, why are they able to escape not just natural disasters like floods and so on by going to a higher ground to avoid it, but even sometimes deer, they don't necessarily get a whiff or a smell or um, see a lion approaching them. It can be something as subtle as they feel a light vibration of the lion's paw, even though it's very padded on the ground, and they recognize it's not the hoof of one of their herd members, and they all scatter and run. The herd mentality is there, but the animals that are on the periphery of the herd sometimes react to herd members on the other side at the same time. How did that happen so suddenly? It's because they were in a still state. And humans very much had that ability as well to go into that still state and feel what is around them. Right now, as a gift to empower everybody who is watching this, take your hand, any hand you want, place it on your heart, and just connect with your heartbeat. Take a few deep breaths. And focus your energy in the area of your chest. This is where all of your emotional energy is, where your loved ones, where everything that you hold dear to you is held at this region of your body. This is also where the inner self or the knowing is there, the intuition, the gut feeling, whatever you would like to call it. Focusing only on the heartbeat, ask yourself, right now the universe wants me to, dot, dot, dot. And the very first thought that comes into your energy space before your mind can scramble it up is what the answer is.
Beautiful. It seems like there's a popular term now in psychology, resilience, and building resilience in your nervous system. And I think with your work, it also builds resilience in the energy field itself. And
Yeah.
this is a really important thing for a lot of people right now to be working on. Yes?
Very much so. So we've spoken a lot about the past, and I'm not all about the past. I'm very much about the present, being present so that we can feel what is happening in the future and working for the future as well. Now, the future is always changing, right? And that doesn't mean that we are pawns or puppets that are completely controlled by the future. Yes, sometimes there are events that occur very suddenly that we're not aware of. Nobody is 100% accurate, right? That's why I said 99% all the time. I haven't experienced a time when somebody said, no, that's not a health issue. It's always been so far. But what I'm trying to say is, if we look at the future, we can build resilience even now, which is why I equip people with tools for the future so that they can change things that are happening. If something is happening that they feel that they don't like, I tell them what the future outcome is. And if it's something inevitable, what is the coping strategy so that you can make the most of it? I didn't predict the COVID-19 virus. I can't make any claim to that. But what I did know is that I do financial planning for myself, and I do business planning for myself. I did see that from February until July, my work would become overwhelmed and that I would have to build resilience so that I can continue to work longer hours than what I would have to, because there was a need for it. I didn't know it was because of the COVID-19. But it happened.
Do you have any foresight about how we'll all come out of this? Not just economically or physically, but you know, some of the impressions I get is that with all this forced isolation, that there's a good possibility many of us will come out of this with a more loving attitude, a more grateful attitude, less focused on material things. Do you see anything like that occurring?
Well, there's so many conspiracy theories going on about why this virus started, what's the result of it. I definitely do feel that people will leave with a desire to be outside in the world once again and to appreciate the source of their income, right? I also sense that, let me see. I see that different organizations, different businesses will start to develop new models and contingency plans so that people can start working from home. I sense that the education of the younger generation will be affected in the long run much more than what we are aware of now.
And probably in 20 years, a lot of these kids that are experiencing the trauma now will be coming to see you to help fix all this trauma that's happening right now.
I have people of all ages. The youngest that I've had was a 16-year-old that came along with the mom. Actually, wait. There were people that came to me for prenatal readings of their child, and some people were very happy, and they were happy to share the X-rays and so on. And I think that would be the youngest actually.
That would be the youngest and still in vitro. We'll talk about that. So what do you perceive with a prenatal kind of a situation? What are you able to, what kind of guidance are you able to give the parents?
When a pregnant woman comes to me for a reading, what I do is I scan the energy system and I look at the child. A lot of parents want to know what the personality of the child will be, what the future of the child will be, and if there's anything that they should take extra precaution for. I do not do diagnosis. I'm not a medical professional, and I don't believe this is my ambit, but that does not mean that I will not give you something that you should not go and verify. One of the situations that I really remember, because I got a lifelong supporter from the particular event that I'm speaking of, is one of my clients came to me and she was continually sick throughout her pregnancy. The fetus was just not in a happy state, and I picked that up. And I saw that the child would have a huge birthmark under their left eye, and they would be born with this, and it would develop like a rash, and the rash would start to bleed as they grew older. So I told the person that this is what your child will have, and the reason that this is happening is because you have a sesame seed allergy that you are not aware of. It became triggered during the pregnancy and it's affecting the unborn child. And she said, was adamant, I do not eat sesame seeds. I don't have any granola bars or anything like that. And I said, no, it's definitely sesame seed. I can see it. And then she said, no. And then I said, well, you eat salad and you have salad dressing, right? And she wasn't eating at that point, but I had picked up that every night she was having a salad craving and she was having a salad dressing with that. And she was like, yes, at midnight I get up and I have salad, and but the salad doesn't have sesame seeds. I'm like, no, but look at the label on the bottle of the
Yeah.
dressing. And she looked at it and she was like, no, I'm telling you, this is just some vinaigrette. It doesn't have sesame seeds. But when she looked at it, the very first thing that it mentioned was sesame seed paste. And she stopped that. She stopped having that sesame seed dressing, and she just had the salad with another dressing. And then the child stopped kicking so much.
Hmm.
Now, this is not a diagnosis, it was a suggestion. I don't tell anybody to avoid medication, or I don't replace medical guidance, but I can certainly give you a very, very, very clear heads up if you are open to it. And she was open to it.
Mhm.
Of course, she had her questioning mind. I don't tell anyone to abandon their uh, their own feelings, because, as I mentioned, we all connected, we all are one. But you definitely do want to um, not be closed-minded to any. And I just wanted to confirm that after she had the child did indeed have a birthmark
Oh,
under
right.
the left eye, and that did continually bleed, and the child is still very sensitive to sesame seeds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, and this is really one of the things I found interesting about your work is that you're very much involved, not just with the energy and the psychic and the past lives, but with the current state of elements, physical things in your field. And this story about the sesame seeds is a perfect example. Is
Mm.
that there may be toxins or there may be things that are disrupting our energy, but they're actual real things. And you have this ability in the training you have, you can pick that up as well.
I can, yes, I can. I mean, so far I've been pretty accurate in what I've picked up. People have benefited from it. That particular incident, I'm confident about revealing it because the person themselves wanted to put a review up. So I said, go ahead, put the review up. It's fine. So that's why I'm revealing that. But sometimes there were things as subtle as energy from a certain person. And sometimes we can't let go of a certain person because they're vital for our life, even though they are not necessarily healthy for you. And we experience that a lot in our current working environment where we can't choose who we live around, or leaving and going solo from your home environment may not necessarily be a option at the moment. So again, it comes back to resilience and building up that resilience in you,
Hmm.
and that I give you the tools to empower you so that you can do that.
Well, I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer in the work that you do, and I really appreciate all the time that we've had here today. I'd love to have you back on the podcast again and talk about things in more depth. Is there any last thoughts that you have around any of the things that we talked about, or anything that you'd like to make sure we cover here today?
What do you think, Sven?
I think, you know, and I've said these things, but I think what's most interesting about your work is just the combination of how everything that's in your life is so connected. You know, your job and your mental health and your physical space and your relationships with other people or people in the past. It's all kind of all there in the same pot, in the same stew. And, you know, to do something in one area is going to affect so many other areas. I think that really makes your work stand out.
Yeah. Thank you, Sven. Okay, and just one last thought for people. In this time that you have at home, something that we can do to give a message to ourselves and to give a message to the universe would be to maybe plant something that would grow, even if it's in a little potted plant. Whatever you do, have an intention. Keep everything focused on intention, even if it means tying it in to your day-to-day activities. If you've been affected by the virus pandemic and your finances has been affected as a result, write your intention out and put it at the bottom of the potted plant. Get some soil and grab any seed that you can get hold of and plant it in that potted plant, and then water it and have the intention that as this seed sprouts and it grows and it becomes into a beautiful tree, let my finances grow in the same way. Really feel and connect with that energy. It's not just thoughts, it's using anything in the environment to connect with your own energy. The same way people feel relaxed when they're around the water because it flows. How much more relaxed would you be if you have to say, just as this water flows, my problems go away, and you really become one with that energy? It's called attunement, right?
What's it
And
called? Say the word again.
the word is attunement. You become
Attunement.
attuned.
Okay.
And once you become attuned, the next word that I want to throw in is entrainment. Now, if you think this is a process that is purely metaphysical, I want to tell you that even scientifically or medically, when children are around their parents, and the parents, or even if people are around other people, not necessarily their parents, and everybody's heart is beating a bit faster, yours also starts to race because we connect with that energy. How many times have you walked into a room and you can't explain it, but the energy is so thick you can cut through it with a knife? Where did that phrase come from? It came because we are all connected to the environment. What I'm saying is that instead of connecting to something which is not serving you, during this time, if you are experiencing hardship, if you are experiencing suffering, grief, following the death of a loved one, if you're experiencing the global grief following the death of so many people from this virus, if you're affected because you don't want to be in your home space with your family, whatever it is, connect with something in the environment that you see as progressing or moving forward. Whether it's the flow of water out of a water feature, whether it is the movement of the clouds, whatever it is, you just need something to lock your attention and focus onto so that you can use it to shift something inside of you. Think of it as a relaxation exercise if you must. But logic doesn't always fit into everything, right? Um, of course, we should question, and it's healthy to question, but sometimes it's also healthy to experience more than question. And I believe, and I have changed many people's opinions through that when I told them, question what you want, but first experience it.
Mm.
Connect to that energy space and choose one incident or one thing that you feel that you could use some help with. And as you see the clouds moving, see that problem disappearing. As you see the water flowing, see that issue being drawn away from you. This is something that is applicable to everybody. Of course, the rituals that I give you are much more specific and more loaded in metaphysics, Eastern metaphysics, and it's requires certain unusual medicinal ingredients, and it's not ingested, but it's used in your environment, and that's how people have such a strong experience with it. But this is something that, until you connect with me and I can give you specific guidance, this is something that may work for you.
Well, you've just explained perfectly why I have such an attraction to going down to the river banks here in the city of Pittsburgh, and enjoy spending time meditating on the side of the river. I
Yes.
appreciate
Do
that.
you want to share anything about your rituals and your experience from the rituals?
I'm reasonably sure that the rituals from the first time I saw you around it was around the winter solstice, um, have helped my nervous system be able to deal, and actually deal quite easily with all of the changes in society around this pandemic. You know, I haven't really gotten too upset about anything. Um, and I'm not at all swayed by the fear mongering on TV and that sort of thing.
Shouldn't. That's an energetic investment that's ill afforded.
Yeah, yeah. There's really nothing uh, that can be gained by constantly watching the news about what's going on. Um, I think for a lot of people, I feel that we'll come out of this with a much better understanding about the one line from the Serenity Prayer, which is that, you know, accept the things you cannot change. And the pandemic will be over when it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And we as individuals can only do what we can do to protect ourselves. But we're not going to have that big of an impact on the length or severity of this crisis.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you know, I'm always, and that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is to help everyone have some of these tools that I've found so effective in keeping ourselves healthy. And, you know, a balanced state of mind, a resilience nervous system, a resilient energy field. Um, these are all critically essential to just being able to maintain in life in general, but especially in times of crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as I said, thoroughly enjoyed this and hope we can do it again soon.
Thank you, Sven. It was very enjoyable.